Co-main event heavyweight bout. Tai Tuivasa coming in at plus 200 against Alexander Volkov, who sits at minus 240. Over under 1.5 rounds, minus 125 for the over, minus 105 for the under. Volkov, ton of experience you see there with the 36-10 record. Tai Tuivasa, 15-5, 3-2 in his last 5. He's on a 2-fight skid, but don't let that fool you. I mean, his 2 losses in a row are Sergey Pavlovich and Cyril Gane, so he's been fighting at the very top of the heavyweight division, and he's getting another tough draw here, I think, against Volkov. Obviously, the line would indicate that. Volkov's 6'7", and Tuivasa 6'2". He's going to have a 5-inch reach disadvantage. Tuivasa will against Volkov. It's a tough frame to deal with, but Tuivasa does have a win over Stefan Struve. It was a first-round knockout. Stefan Struve is 7 feet tall. So, I mean, he can fight these bigger guys. That is a little bit of something to get behind for Tai Tuivasa. We all know he's going to want to land that big bomb. Most of his wins come by knockout, and he could close the distance and find some success there if he can. But for Volkov, he's probably going to want to rock some teep kicks up the middle, take the Cyril Gane game plan of like keeping him at distance, and don't allow him to get going downhill on you, because when Tai is allowed to swang and bang with you, you're probably not going to come out of that with a win unless you're Sergey Pavlovich, because nobody's beating Sergey Pavlovich if you're swinging and banging. So it's a tough fight. I think Volkov should win, but if he doesn't fight smart, he could definitely get knocked out. What do you think?
Yeah, here's what I don't like for Tai. And I love Tai as a fighter, and he's got a ton of hype behind him. Everybody loves Tai Tuivasa. But 6'7" for Volkov, like that's a big mountain to climb. If you're Tai, not a short guy by any means, but that's a lot of distance to cover, especially Volkov with the reach as well and the kicks up the middle. And for Tai Tuivasa, tremendous power, fun to watch. But you look at his last win was Derek Lewis. And that's really his only good win if you look at his record in the UFC. He's knocked out and beaten Augusto Sakai, Greg Hardy, Harry Hunsucker. I mean, come on. It just sucks. I mean, compared to Volkov, I mean, when you look at Volkov, he's coming off the win over Romanov, which I'm not big on Romanov. But Jairzinho Rosenstruck, who's a dangerous striker, loses to Tom Aspinall, beats Marcin Tybura, loses to Cyril Gane. Like, this dude's fighting some pretty high-level guys, especially Aspinall and Gane. Regardless of if he won or lost those fights, he's in there with the best of the best. So I do like that for Volkov, but I don't necessarily like the odds against a big power puncher in Tai Tuivasa at home in Australia. The crowd's going to be rocking for Tai. But, yeah, man, I want to take Tai so bad. And I think if you do take Tai, you just take him by knockout. Because going all 3 rounds with a guy like Volkov, I think is going to be tough to get a decision win. A guy who's going to hit you some shots, probably throw more volume at you and touch you a little bit more, but Ty's going to land some big shots, if he can close that distance. I just don't know. I think it's a closer fight maybe than the odds say, so that's why I would lean Tai betting-wise. But for the pick, I do think it's going to be pretty tough for him to land those big shots often against Volkov here. So I'm going to take Volkov to win. Unfortunately, I'm going to be rooting my ass off for Tai. But, betting-wise might be a different story. Might have to sneak one in there for Tai.
The thing that I noticed as far as film study goes is, like, Volkov has a lot of success when he's kind of closing the distance himself, and just kind of uses his length, like, in the clinch with the knees. And even just inside, he'll rock the uppercut a lot. And that's not really a spot you want to be against Tai. So I would maybe look and see like a Volkov by decision prop, because I think Tai is going to be super tough in this one. I don't think if Volkov fights smart, he could just sit at range and pick him apart, because he does have a pretty decent chin himself. I mean, he's only been knocked out twice. And Volkov, really where he's been struggled with, like against the top guys, is getting taken down, like against Tom Aspinall, against Curtis Blades. And then nobody's really going to out kickbox Cyril Gane for 5 rounds. It's just usually not going to happen. And he tried that, didn't really work. But I mean, getting knocked out by Derek Lewis in the 3rd round, like with like 10 seconds left, otherwise he would have won by decision. I would probably look for a Volkov by decision prop. Because if he fights smart, I think he just cruises to a win. But Tai, always dangerous for the knockout. He's not going to just sit there and take it. I don't think he will. So it's a tough one to take Volkov at chalk. So maybe you buy it down and look for the decision.
Yeah, and on the feet, like Ty does have a negative striking differential, so he does get hit quite a bit. And, you know, it's kind of, you don't notice it as much unless he's fighting the Cyril Gans and stuff, because, you know, eventually against a lot of these lower level guys, he finds the big knockout, but he does get touched up in there. So it's going to be interesting. It'll be a fun fight.